I wanted to talk today about something that is quite common and fairly insidious in our spiritual growth and also our personal growth realms. It's become so normal and so endemic that I think a lot of us are functioning from it without even realizing that we're functioning from it. And it undermines our own wisdom and our own knowing. It undermines our progress, and it can really sabotage our growth. If you are on any form of social media at all, one of the things you will notice, and if you don't already notice it, you're definitely going to notice it after I point it out. There's this knowing war going on where there are people, human people, that have a way of seeing the world with this idea that if we find the right truth, we'll be fine. So we have to go and find which truth fits. We try it on for a while, like a jacket, or go, oh, I've outgrown that, or it doesn't fit anymore, and I need a new truth. What's the new truth? And we go and find new truths. And we keep almost being on these quests until we get to the truth that we're satisfied with, the truth that we stop with, and now we're at the truth. It's very almost religious in its fervor that we do this. It's like everybody just assumes that going on a quest to find the truthiest truth or the rightest truth, going on that quest, and you achieve the truth, and now you have the truth, and you've somehow arrived, or you've somehow done it, you have arrived. First of all, that in and of itself is very problematic for many reasons, and it's useful for what it is as a adjunct or a side tool, but not as the whole enchilada. And we're engaging it as a whole enchilada when it really should just be kind of a little tool we should use once in a while. It shouldn't be the entire path. So I have a problem with it because I have so many reasons I have a problem with it. But each of us needs to learn how to be relational and to listen through our own bodies and our dreams and the systems that we're a part of and the communities that we're a part of in order to be in a place where the arising of life is met and navigated well, rather than what this truth thing is like there's some sort of static nature to reality that if we understand the rules, we understand the perspectives, and we get it, then we're going to be fine. Life is a constantly unfolding moment, and it's a constantly unfolding moment of countless, unfathomable threads and interactions and beings and fates and all kinds of things, including the environment and the entire world and outside of our world into the entire galaxy that are influencing moments. If you are trying to know what the truth is when moments are constantly shifting, meaning moments are constantly requiring listening and wisdom and responsiveness. Moments are not requiring truth. Moments are not requiring static knowledge. You can never know enough. You will never ever in your entire lifetime have enough knowledge in your head to draw on to meet the arising of life at any given moment. And as we have more and more and more moments, we begin to shift from this idea that there's a right way or a truth way that we should be doing things to really understanding that there is a responsiveness to moments, that we meet moments with courage and with tools and skillfulness and capacity and connection for those moments, not with some kind of externally imposed morality, some externally imposed version of what reality is. We cultivate an ability from within our own bodies to meet the arising as best as we can. When we don't do that, we're constantly in a state of control or feeling out of control, meaning we feel anxious or we become perfectionist or we clench and tighten, there are also many problems that arise. I see people getting almost like neurotic and vicious at times. I call them reality battles, where someone says, this is what reality is, and I know what reality is, and I can tell you what reality is, and learn all these rules, and you'll have the truth. You'll be in reality. And someone else says, no, 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 this is the reality. This is what reality is. They're reality battles. And it's someone that constructed a realm and said, these are the components of reality, and use these things and impose these things on reality and function from these things as if they're true, and you'll be fine, or at least you'll be right. You'll be right. And nowadays, what I'm observing is this really extreme, saturated version where everybody is participating now. Everybody is participating in these kind of reality battles of this rush to be the person who has the truth, this rush to know reality better than other people know reality, and then put it into a formula and then package it and teach it. And most of those systems that I have seen, whether they are really well established, or they are just individual people trying to carve out a niche for themselves in this very noisy world. And I'm not admonishing anyone, okay? I'm admonishing this process, not the people. There is a difference, and it's an important difference, because this thing that I'm talking about it's invisible, meaning it's embedded. It's so deeply embedded in the fabric of how we do our modern culture that it's just an assumption. It's invisible. It just is, and it's factual and it's accurate. And we don't even question it. We don't even question that we're doing this. So I think many people that are doing this don't realize that's what they're doing, because it seems like that's what we're supposed to do. It seems like that's the only option, is to figure out reality and then map it and teach it as if it is the reality. And it's like this race to see who's the most right about what this world is and how to do this life. Any system pretty much that you could think of, most any system nowadays, is promulgating this idea that there's a right way to be, that there's a right way to be in this world, and that there is an actual reality that you just need to unfuck yourself enough to be able to see. You need to heal yourself enough to be able to see. You need to conscious yourself enough to be able to even access. You need to affirm enough to be able to even get it to notice you or work for you. All these different iterations that are just different flavors of the exact same thing, which is there's a reality, there's a truth, and there's a way to be, and you just need to find it. And then what happens is the finding of it gets turned into power trips. The finding of it gets turned into badges people wear. It gets turned into this thing of like self-affirming because we've achieved some level of peering through into what's actually real, and that we're no longer subjected to the unreal things. But it's always in this category of what is and what really is. It's always in this category of reality battle that we go and work in some fashion so that we can access a truth, and then we start to live from the rules of that truth. Do unto your neighbor as you would have them do unto you is one. The universe listens to you, and you have to be careful what you say and only say things in the positive, or else you're going to draw negative things to you. Thoughts create reality. None of this is real. It is very rare that I see anybody teaching other people how to navigate based upon their own way of being in the world, rather than leave the way that you are in the world and come adopt this other way. The way that you are is wrong, and there's a right way to be. That's what people are saying. The way that you are is somehow wrong, but there's a right way to be. And it's really about getting knowledge and learning rules and becoming conscious and jumping through hoops and sort of flashing the right words or the right look or the right meme or the right whatever to kind of, that you're in the knowing crowd of the one who really gets the reality. I call those pocket realities. You can read about that in my book, Savage Awakening, but those are pocket realities. And pocket realities are basically you're still in the manufactured world of modern society. You're still participating in it. You've just created a little pocket reality that insulates you from some measure of its BS. And you have like a little insulation from the larger world, but you're still not rooted and centered in primal intelligence or deeper intelligence outside of the human created that is larger and closes the human created, right? You're not in a rooted and centered place. You're in here with all of your little rules that you've memorized and that you've internalized and that you act from, that it's hit or miss. A lot of the time it works and a lot of the time it doesn't. And you're just going to keep doing it because you believe that that's the right way to be. That there's a right way to be is just like, that's what everybody's saying. There's a right way to be. And if you think about that, that's really weird to say there's a right way to be a person in all of the variety that we have as human beings, from neurotypes to cultures to ancestry to access to things or lack of access to things to varying abilities to our perspectives and our genetic composition and all of the things that make us individual people. To say that there's a right way to be a person, there's no model that any modern person has that's from what I'm talking about, these reality battle models, okay? There's no model anybody has that serves people in the variety that we have people. So if there's a right way to be a person, there's a right consciousness to have, there's a right practice to have, there's a right morality to have, there's a right belief to have. There's a right way to do things. And if you do it those ways, you're in, you got power, you're conscious, you're winning the game. And if you don't, you're out, you're ignorant, you're not conscious, you're missing it. And oh, poor you. You're just missing it. You're not being a person the right way. You're not being a spiritual person the right way. You're not being a healed person the right way. You're not being a conscious person the right way. You're not being a wise person the right way. You're not being an embodied person the right way. You're not being a successful person the right way. You're not being a public person the right way. You're not being a private person the right way. You're not doing your body right. You're not doing how you look right. You're not doing the accoutrements you wear right. You're just not doing it right. And there's a right way. And if you do it the right way, you get rewarded. And if you don't do it the right way, you get punished. And we understandably, because belonging is so incredibly important for every aspect of our wellness, belonging is so important for every aspect of our wellness. In our culture, not belonging is so punished in the most insidious, kind of benign looking ways to the most brutal ways, is so punished that when we're told there's a right way to be, and even though it's a spiritual perspective or it's a healing perspective, the underlying weight of saying that to people, the underlying weight of that embedding in the fabric of our cultural exchange is that if you don't find the right way to be, like your life depends on you being a person the right way, or you're going to have hardship. And when we embed those invisible assumptions and we carry that over into personal growth and spiritual spaces, it's horrible. It's horrible. And it's all over the place that people are doing that. And as I said, I don't think people understand what they're doing, that we're all participating in this cultural power trip, cultural death threat, cultural access messaging in our spiritual and personal growth spaces, that there's a right way to be. There's a right way to be, and you just need to find it. And your work as a spiritual person, your work on a personal growth path is to find the right way to be. And that idea that there's a right way to be is bullshit. That's the problem, is it's bullshit. Like we're saying it as if it's just so correct. everyone's assuming, yeah, there's a right way to be. And I'm not hearing people challenge that very often. And the people who are challenging it are the people who are not in those spaces, the people who don't just naturally fit in to the right way. The people who are dissidents, the people who are artists, the people who are outcasts, the people who are differently bodied, the people who are differently wired in their minds, the people who have different perspectives that don't agree with that are on the outside, so they're not really getting listened to very much anyway. So the voices of the people who aren't parroting this dominant assumption that there's a right way to be are not being given very much support or access or ease. They're not being listened to. They're not being given power. They're not being given access. They're not being given support. Their lives are actually largely being made more difficult. And then you have certain people that kind of make it through the crack and somehow get a bunch of power or get a bunch of fame or get a bunch of whatever the currency of that particular dominant paradigm moment is. And then they're like, oh my God, you're amazing, you're amazing. But everybody like you is still not going to get listened to. It's a little bit weird. Okay. So if we are not in a system where we are trying to figure out the right way to be, and then contorting ourselves in pretzels, working really hard to be right, to perform our right way of being on the world around us. If we're not doing that, what else do we do? What's the alternative? And it's very, very, very simple. It's very simple. And you don't need to pay people a shit ton of money for it. And you don't need to spend years of your life with the great expense of time and energy and effort to be able to do it. And I think that's one of the reasons nobody's talking about it, is because it doesn't perpetuate the system. It actually causes people to feel ease and okayness in themselves. And the idea that there's a right way to be only works as something that we seek is if we feel wrong in ourselves, we feel unease in ourselves in some way. We don't feel okay just being the people that we are in the way that we're people. It's about being relational and really putting your energy and your awareness and your attention and your intention into the world around you. The human realm is so tiny in comparison to the greater, wider reality. The human realm is so tiny compared to the greater, wider reality. And most humans feel like the human reality is predominantly the world. Oh my God, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. No, sweetheart, humans are going to hell in a handbasket, and we're damaging a lot of stuff along that journey. But the world itself, there are so many places that are not infected with us. There's so many other realities happening. There are infinite other realities happening than our human reality. But we center ourselves in it, we blow it up and make it everything. And that's also part of these assumptions that we've inherited, that we are the stewards of the earth. For example, we're the stewards of the earth. Like it's our job to govern and control the earth and all the many beings in it. Like, oh my God, we're so centered at we're in the center and we're at the top of our own models. So cultural humility, we're just a part of life and we're not more significant in the stories of the other beings around us, right? We're not more significant than that. We are just another being along with all of the other beings. We're not more significant than any of the other beings. And humans hate that. Modern humans hate that. And I'm not saying that your life is equivalent to the life of a tree. Obviously, for you, your life is more meaningful than a tree. I have never asked a tree how it views its life. But nobody's psyched to die. Nobody's psyched to be used as food. Nobody's psyched to be harmed in service to another living being. Nobody wants that. Literally, nobody wants that. Every single life views its own life as precious, but we view our life as the most precious and we put it above everything else. And that mentality means we are not being relational in our very subtle perceptions and our invisible questions and the lenses that we're looking through. We're not being relational. And what I mean by that is when you're relational, in your orientation, you're not in a hierarchical framework. You're not making hierarchical assumptions. So you're not assuming that the way that you're a person is better than the way other people are their version of a person, first and foremost. There's no ultimate human, there's no ultimate person. But in our society, we act like there's an ultimate person, and you can buy it, you can surgery it, you can perform it, you can pretend it, you can mask it, you can mimic it, you can do all these things because we're like, oh, there's a right way to be a person. But when there's not a right way to be a person, then the way that you're a person, meaning the way your mind works, the things that you love, the way that your body looks and performs, the cultures and subcultures that you belong to, the identities that you have, none of those are better, literally, than any other way someone else is being a person. Now, please let's not be ridiculous and go, well, what about child molesters? They're people. I said earlier, this thing about belonging, there are lines of belonging, but things like serial killers and child molesters, all of those things are environmental threats to the ecosystemic health of everything. At least to humans, it's a threat to the ecosystemic health of human beings. And we're going to have a natural reactive response to not allow those types of things. There's something healthy, ecosystemically and relationally healthy about that. There's something absurd about thinking that the way that you're a person is better than other people when it's not this hard line, disruptive, predatory, gross thing. So anything besides, predatory, gross, damaging things, which is most of us don't fit into that category. Most of us don't fit into the gross version of that category. Then everything else that I'm talking about stands. The way that you're a person in the world, and this is people who just have compassion and they turn the other cheek and they're just all about peace, are somehow better than people who get angry, or people who, no matter where they live, that the particular skin color they have is somehow more preferred or less preferred, more right or less right than someone else's, or the shape of someone's body, or the way someone's mind works, or just fill in the blanks on any of it. That there's no better way to be a person than any other person. So that hierarchical framework, when you are relational, you begin to move away from that. This idea that there's a right way to be and that we're trying to find that and we're imposing it on everything is absurd. So when you step out of that and you get relational, what happens is you're in a state of curiosity about all of these other beings that are equally being valid in the way that they're being beings, first and foremost. And then what you shift your attention and your intention to is the way that life unfolds moment by moment. So instead of this idea that there's a right or a wrong way to be, and you have this inner critic that's got this constant dialogue going, oh, you shouldn't have said that, you should have done this different, you should have looked that way, you should have tried this thing, you did that wrong, oh my God, oh my God. Instead of this internal critic that is alive because we believe there's a right way to be, and it's constantly telling us that we either are right or we're not, so that we can get more right. That's why we have internal critics. It can be useful, but not in that regard. That should be like the internal critic, again, should not be a place you function from. It should be a tool you engage once in a while for the right situation. Okay. So when we're relational, we are also living in a state of the ever unfolding of life. And what I mean by the ever unfolding of life is that life is constantly in a state of becoming. So we have patterns, we have seasons, I live someplace where the seasons are obvious. So it's predictable that this time of year it's going to be wet and cold. Okay. So I can rely on that pattern and get myself some wood for my wood burning stove, make sure that the roof is sealed, unhook the hose in anticipation of the frost so my pipes don't burst, that kind of stuff. There's some predictability to those cycles, but the ever unfolding moment that happens within those cycles, we're presented with constant opportunities to engage that unfolding and to encounter things that we're not expecting and that we do not control. So when we're relational, everybody, not just humans, every being is valid. We are not superior to those beings, but paradoxically, we grow our ability to hold the fact of our own preferences. You don't obliterate your preferences. It's okay for you to prefer a human baby over an animal baby because you're a human. You are naturally going to have that preference. The same way an animal is going to have a preference over its own baby and not yours. It's the same thing. So we understand that the way that life is valid. So we step away from there's a right way to be. We start opening our eyes, our hearts, our ears, our minds, our spirits, our hands, our feet. We start opening ourselves to there's not a right way to be. We start looking around with the assumption that everything is basically valid the way that it is. And then we're in a place of how do I want to be with this and how am I with this? In my book, there's a chapter called Be Where You Really Are, where you're basically every moment you're presented with yourself, with your own limits, your own strengths, your own truths, by the way that you engage what unfolds in front of you. So if somebody says something terrible to you, that's demeaning to you, you're rising in the moment, and who and what you are in that moment will respond to that. And the more rooted and centered you are in life, the more you are observing what life actually is as life presents itself to you, not your ideas about it, not the rule book that you're living from, but life reveals to us what it is moment by moment, and your life reveals to you what your life is to you. And that's going to be different than what my life reveals to me that my life is to me, because I have influences and factors and things that you are not experiencing. And you have influence and factors that I am not experiencing. We're constantly being shown who and what we are. We're constantly being put in a position of choice and practice. And it's really about, do you have the tools, the skillfulness, the capacity, and the connection that you need to be able to deal with how life is unfolding for you? And that you just focus on that. You don't focus on what's right. You focus on what is responsive and how do you feel about those responses. And in those responses, you learn what you are. You learn how fragile you are. You learn what a chicken shit you are. You learn how courageous and powerful you are. You learn how caring you are or how not caring you are. You learn these things, and then you are in reality because you are looking at what is, not imposing your ideas of what should be onto what is. And then you're in reality. And then you have freedom, and then other things begin to happen. And you're not living as a control freak, trying to get yourself to be right all the time, or trying to get other beings to be right according to you all the time. So you unpucker and you stop acting like you're, king or queen of the freaking universe. And you become part of life. So these walls and this rigidity begins to drop off of you, this neurosis, this anxiousness, this anger, this stuff just begins to drop off of you. The pressure to make meaning and live your purpose and do it right and just like be a person the right way, or oh my God, who knows, you're gonna burn in hell or something's gonna happen if you don't do it right. Like this like clenching just starts to drop off of you. And then you get to face the existential difficulty of being in a body, being a tiny little person in a huge world, and the gorgeousness of that, and the fragility of that, and the power of that, and the chaos and the unpredictability and all the things that come with not imposing this idea onto everything around you, and instead being a part of life with everything that's around you. Everything else in existence besides human beings, and some human beings, not many, but some human beings, but everything else in existence is just responding to the life around it as it happens. All of us needing safe places, right? We all need safe places. We all need insulation from the greater difficulty that life is. Animals need safety from predators. They need safe places to raise their young. We need safe places as well. It's not, none of us are going to do well out. No being does well just out in the wilds, except beings like storms and other things that are truly of the wilds, that they are themselves the wildness that the rest of us need protection from. Forest fires, contained fire, the boon of civilization. Forest fires, nobody likes that. You know, in some places, the land, the larger, more ancient body, the more long-lived body of the land needs that in some places for renewal and things like that. But none of the smaller beings, none of us fragile beings with smaller bodies, with more temporary bodies like that, we all need safe places. But what's happened in the modern world is that we're taking our need for safe places and we're not admitting it. None of us are admitting that we need safe places unless we're in a place where it's obviously we're in danger. But none of us are admitting day to day we need safe places. No, we elevate that. We intellectualize it. We spiritualize it. We turn it into some mighty ideal or some religion or some consciousness or some great thing, that we're somehow above all of it. And it's exhausting and it's expensive and it's bullshit. So if you start thinking about, as you are searching for teachers, for paths, for help, for support, for guidance, for orientation, whatever it is that you might be searching for, relief, for safety, for belonging, whatever it is that you might be searching for, if the people that you have access to, okay, if the places that you have access to aren't teaching ways of being that enable you to be a part of things and handle the arising and respond to the arising that you inevitably face, but they're teaching programs and truths and right ways of being that you then need to learn the rules of and either fake it till you make it or internalize so much that you're constantly wrestling yourself, or you're constantly criticizing yourself, constantly failing, or you're constantly superior to other people. If they're teaching systems like that, I'm not saying run away, but what I am saying is ask them, whoever you have access to, can you help support me in being able to be more skillful with responding to what life does, instead of teach me what life is? Because what life is for each and every one of us is vastly different. And when you have teachers and you have all these people now, everybody has an opinion and we can all hear each other. And everybody is just saying variations on the theme. And the theme is there's a right way to be. And I know that. And I can tell you how to be right, how to be in the world right, whether it's the social justice scene, the religious scene, the personal growth scene, the psychology therapy scene, the health scene, the relationship scene. Pick something. Everybody's saying this is how to be right. And it can take a lot of discernment and cultivating your ability to really listen, to really listen, to have discernment if someone is telling you this is healthy and going to help you live in a state of responsiveness more skillfully, that will serve all of the factors that you're dealing with as an individual valid person. So to hear and feel the difference between that and there's a right way to be and you're wrong, and if you don't do this, then you suck. We all are using, for me, it's English, wherever you are, your world, it might be in a different language, but we're all using the same language to convey things. So part of navigating the ever unfolding moment is by being very much rooted and centered in yourself and listening first and foremost to what your body is telling you. And, it takes many, many years to begin to understand the difference between what you think and believe and what is more your essence versus what you've been indoctrinated into and told and punished for not doing or rewarded for doing, and kind of separate those out so you can really get a sense of your own integrity. But you have to have humility, and when our very lives, that our very safety is tied to doing it right or not, it's a hard game. And I'm saying that because it's not easy to you don't just flip a switch and extract yourself from the current way things are. It's a very high risk thing to do because we need belonging, we need access, we need support, we need to not be antagonized, we need to not be attacked, we need to not be demeaned, we need to have a sense of dignity and a sense of care and a sense of respect and a sense of welcome. And the way things are is, if you don't do that right, you don't get any of that. And I see this in subcultures too. I have been a part of a lot of subcultures, and this plays out there as well, that you have to signal to whatever that group is correctly, or they withdraw the basic dignity of your existence from you. And you're left on your own, and none of us can survive on our own. There's a very real threat. It's not just love and light. It's not just like consciousness. It's not just success or manifestation or good times or whatever. There is an implicit, invisible threat that if you don't, you're going to get the shit into the stick. And it's either going to be direct or it's going to be through neglect. You simply won't have the things that you need to be okay. So it's conform to whatever group is surrounding you, conform, find the group and conform to it, or you're fucked. That's basically what it is. And that's not the way to do it. And so we begin to address this, we begin to shift this by beginning first and foremost to notice it and stop putting all of our opening and our thought and our effort and our money and our time into the humans that are saying there's a right way to be. You can go to nature, to parks. You can just observe a plant in your home. You can look at something coming up through the cracks of the concrete where you live. You can watch sky patterns. You can listen to birds. You can notice clouds. You can sense the wind. You can do work to do research on the land that you're on and the peoples that used to live there and what their cultures were, because those early cultures were, those people were taught by the environment itself, what the environment is and how to live and how to be in the places that they were. So you begin to go into a lens and a framework of belonging where you're learning from things outside of the people that are saying there's a right way to be. And then you see what happens. You see what life reveals to you, not what humans tell you life is. And the funny thing is that when you do that, the way that you're a person, however you happen to be a person, will be in a unique dialogue that reveals to you what life is. And that will inform the choices that you make. It informs the steps that you take. It informs the decisions that you make. The environment itself will begin to give you feedback and ideas. And the many beings seen and unseen, breathing and non-breathing, the many beings in the environment around you. As you invest in those relationships with those beings will invest back. So we can be held by a broader net, a broader web of life than just humans. And those beings will teach us. They come to us in dreams, they reveal things, and there would be significance and richness in that. And that's everywhere. And we miss those things when our minds and our self is convinced that there's a right way to be. We're looking for that and we're criticizing the moments that we're in to make sure that they're aligning with the right way to be. So we miss significance, we miss meaning, we miss belonging, we miss ease, we miss simplicity, we miss just being okay existing because we're so, striving to be right. And so I'm just saying there's another way of being. There's another way. And it's if you just take everything I've said and just put it on like you're putting on a pair of glasses and go, when I'm hearing these messages, is someone saying there's a right way to be and they know the right way to be? When I'm hearing these messages, is it like if I don't do this, I'm going to have a harder time than the people who are doing it? Is there somebody saying that? Is there like a threat in here? Is there a promise of power or great reward here? What's going on? And all of those things are revealing that there's an invisible power assumption that we're all making. And that power assumption is that people who do it right have an easier time, better time, a happier time, a more fulfilling time, a more peaceful time, a more loving time, a more wonderful time than the people who don't. They have more money, or they have more love, or they have more respect, or they have more whatever than the people who don't. And shouldn't you just come over and do that? And like, you could have all this if you just did it right, like me, right? That's everywhere. It's freaking everywhere from the products we're exposed to, the spiritual systems, to the psychotherapeutic modalities, all these things. And not everybody in all of those places is doing it. But we're not making a delineation between living right and living responsively, living responsive to the ever unfolding reality. And if the humans who are telling you this is how you're supposed to live, if they are not saying, here's the tools that you can use, and here are ways that can help you learn from the many beings around you what's best for you. But if they are instead saying, here's a model that you need to adopt and enforce upon yourself and enforce upon your life so that you can live correctly or live well or live right or live powerfully or live sovereign or live, enlightened or live whatever. That's the delineation that you should be making. Just pay attention to that. I think many humans are living with a deep sense of kind of existential disorientation. That's the essence of an anxiety disorder, is that you feel deeply disoriented, unless it's inflammation or there's a health reason for it. But I think most humans feel disoriented because our modern world is wacky as fuck. And there are a lot of things that are hard to believe and that don't make sense to the ecosystemic environmental part of us that is a part of everything. So we sort of get split. And like secretly, we might really care that there are these gross disparities. There's mistreatment, there's abhorrent practices, earth raping, there's just weird reductionism and separation and disconnection getting promoted all over the place. Those are like many of us privately go, oh my God. And it's impossible for the innocence in each of us to understand it. So we're just going, oh my God, what's going on? And it makes it very appealing when someone comes in and says, I know what's going on and I can orient you. And here's a system and here's tools. It's like a life raft. It is a life raft for us. And there's nothing wrong with grabbing that life raft, but you're not supposed to live on the life raft. You're not supposed to live there and make the life raft your entire reality. You're supposed to get to some sense of safety, whatever that might mean to you. Get yourself to some sense of safety. Catch a breath, right? But don't make that your entire home. Then, when you have a breath and you've got your feet under you and you have gotten a little rest and you're not in disorientation or you're not just really harshly in survival mode, then you want to start looking around you outside of just humans. Outside of just humans. Stop. Like, humans aren't everything. I love humans. I love all of my ideas and my things and like figuring stuff out. Like, I love it. I love this human experience. But but only being informed or predominantly being informed by other humans or by my own human self is not the way to go. It's not the way to go. Being informed by what other life does, because we are not different from other life. We're not different from it. In some ways, we are different. Some organisms, some beings, we are so different from, but other beings, not so much. And by seeing how they are, how the world supports them, what they face, the way that they face it, what their needs are, how they live, how they respond, how they interact, what they do, all of those things are relevant for us. Their teachings, their revelations, their spaces for us to get other versions of what this life is besides what all the various humans have decided. Because a lot of humans are just fucking wrong about what reality is. There's human created reality. There's human created reality, and then there's everything else. Like, predator prey is everywhere on this planet. Predator prey is a reality. Every single being on this planet, pretty much every single being on this planet, lives with some type of predator prey effect in their lives. Every single being is dealing with something that its existence is antagonizing their existence in some way. Every single being. But humans, in our little human created realm, our human ideas are like, if you do X, Y, and Z, you will be magically insulated from all of the rest of a much larger reality. Rather than saying, we're very fragile and we need safe spaces, and these ideas we've constructed, these beliefs that we do, these behaviors that we have are really just us trying to insulate ourselves from how existentially freaked out we are. So we've created ideas that we're the top, we've created ideas that we're the smartest, we've created ideas that we govern everything. We create all these ideas, give us some relief that we're not as vulnerable as we are, that we're not as fragile as we are, that we're not as unextraordinary as we are, because we are not more extraordinary than all of the other just infinitely extraordinary phenomena of existence. We're not. We're not special. Everything is so exquisitely, amazingly special. We're not more special than the exquisite specialness of everything. It's all a freaking miracle that we are here. It's a freaking miracle the way ecosystems work, the way weather patterns are, this earth, this planet, oxygen, cellular respiration, pooping, lovemaking, producing children, smelling fragrances, like plants. Oh my God, plants. Like, it's so amazing being here. And we are part of the amazingness. We're not meant to be anything other than part of it, and to be freaked out and also in love with the beauty of it. It's the paradox. It's, we have to grow our capacity for that. And when you are in a relational fabric of reality, when you're in a relational framework with not just predominantly humans, with all beings, with all things around you, you're in a relational assumption base with all of the things around you. Different things become available to you than the control, rightness, power trip stuff that is on offer by most of the human created things of this world. And it's more simple, in my opinion. It's more easeful, it's more adventurous and exhilarating, it's more beautiful. It's really a lot scarier in some ways, but it's scarier because it's more natural. It's not manufactured scary like humans are, like attacking you, ousting you, locking you up, beating you up, murdering you because you're getting punished because you're not being a person right. That's a majority of the terror humans inflict upon each other, is that you're not being a person right, so you're fair game. Whether it's subtle and insidious in the workplace, you're just not getting the opportunities other people are, or it's really overt, like the things that we're seeing all over the world and in our own communities. Humans threaten each other for not being humans right. Life isn't going to threaten you for not being a person the right way. Life just threatens you because it's an ecosystem and there's a wild intelligence in it that isn't partial to us. It's not partial to us. Life is partial to life. And sometimes that means things die. That's life too. Death is not anti-life or opposite of life. It's just life too. Something gets old or gets diseased, or it's in the wrong place at the wrong time, or it's food for something or whatever. But it's not punitive the way that humans are. It's not twisted the way that humans are. It's not something we necessarily can understand, you know, in our human frameworks. Life has a randomness to it that's very scary. It's very scary, and all of us want to be safe from that. But the way that we seek that safety is important. It's important. So we seek that safety through rightness, or we seek that safety through belonging in the greater systems that we are just part of with everything else. It hurts my heart every day when I see this stuff. It hurts my heart every day because it doesn't need to be so complicated. It doesn't need to be so intellectual. It doesn't need to be so gate kept. It doesn't need to be so exclusive. It doesn't need to be so arduous. Like, oh my God. It doesn't need to be so elitist. It doesn't need to be so brutal. It doesn't need to be so like, a lot of people take the consciousness or the gains that they've made and weaponize it. It doesn't need to be like that. And that stuff happens when humans reference themselves and keep creating different iterations of their own little stories and refuse to be humble and just be a part of everything. I think we need to get over our need to be special, in a way that our need to be special, that we couple that with privilege, and we couple that with power, and we couple it with permission to be assholes or to be mean or to shun others. Like, we really need to humble ourselves. We really do. And this idea that there is a right way to be is one of the most arrogant, elitist, weird things we humans have created. We've been doing it for thousands of years, and it creates a massive amount of harm and a massive amount of inequity for every being that is within reach of it. We use it to justify just really stupid and horrific things. We really need to humble ourselves and stop making ourselves the center and the top of all of life, because that's only relevant for us. We're not the center and top of life to an octopus. We're not center and top of life to soil bacteria, to an earthworm, to the cedar tree. We're not center and top of life to any other being. We just like to exert force to show that we are. They all know the truth. Every other being knows that we're not the center nor the top of life. We're just part of it, like every other being is. And that's the truth. We can't access that, and we can't experience the alternate way of being a person that would afford us if we keep paying into, buying into, giving credence to and acting as if it's true that there's a right way to be. So all I'm saying is just consider that and cultivate a lens of discernment that can tell you, is this reinforcing and promoting that there's a right way to be and you're not valid, or you're not safe, or you're not going to have power or respect or success or basic needs met if you don't do that, or not? Because the same language doesn't mean the same invisible assumptions. The same language doesn't mean the same relational foundation. So you can ask people questions about what it is that they're teaching and what it is that they believe, and have discernment so that you start finding supports and things that will nourish you being valid the way you are, and having your own relationship, with the life around you, and not making everything around you a particular way. Just have your own relationship with it and let other beings have influence and have a say and affect you, and see what arises in that space of being relational. When we meet other beings and one is suffering, whether it's an earthworm that's on the sidewalk drowning in the rain, or another human person that might be houseless, that has a thing for spare change, and you're going, oh, they're just going to use it for drugs or whatever. And just, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to be in those spaces and that there's certain choices you should make. What I'm saying is putting yourself in a place where you're paying attention to what arises in you and what choice you want to make with that. Not because of all the should you've been indoctrinated with, and not because of all of the ideas you have about being right, so that you don't perform on the space, but that you actually listen to the life in you, responding to the life around you, and how the life around you responds to the life in you, and see what that teaches you, see what it reveals to you, see what you learn, see what is required of you, see what might shift in you. Just see what happens. Just see what happens. And there's no goal, there's no place to get to except that you're humble and that you belong to the greater web of being. That's it. You don't have to have meaning or purpose or a mission or an objective or a goal or a place you get to, a destination beyond that. And you can literally spend every single day living in a state of relational responsiveness to the life around you, and you will have an endless source of entertainment, wisdom, and insight, and ahas, and shifting, and richness, and awe. You will have an endless supply of it. And it's very possible you will start to see how much more satisfying, even if it feels scarier in some ways, how much more satisfying life feels just doing that. Just doing that. And if you go on to accomplish things in the human realm that humans deem extraordinary, cool. And if you just sip tea on your porch or wander the woods, cool. Nothing external is dictating how rich and fulfilling and wealthy you are, and how held you are by the greater web, not just humans. You can be held by the greater web of life. You can be held by other beings besides humans. You can be held by ecosystems. You can have so many of your needs met by unseen beings, by ancestors, by trees, plants, insects, mammals, reptiles, wind, clouds, sun, moon, planets, so many other beings that you can have relationships with that will really nourish the essence of who and what you are and what you need in this world. We have to extract ourselves from the threat the implicit threat that is embedded in doing it right or not, we have to extract ourselves from that and be nourished by other things so that we have the ability to not be held hostage by being required to forfeit the way that we're a person in order to survive this world. And a lot of things become possible for us that when we just invest in the solely human created realm that just aren't available, even to our imaginations. You can't even imagine what's possible out here, right? I hope you consider that. It's, to me, it's the absolute core of all the things. It's the absolute core of all the things is rightness or relationship. It's one or the other. It's not both. It's one or the other. Because relationship is alive, and sometimes our relating is what's required is morally abhorrent in the human realm. And sometimes what's required is transcendent and enlightened in the human realm. And it arises in us as it needs to. And I think that scares the shit out of civilized people. But it starts with humility. It starts with a willingness to not have to be above and beyond every other thing in existence, every other being, to not have to be above and beyond it and just be a part of it all, and then see what happens from that place. So, okay, I think I'm done. This was long. And if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. And I hope that this is in some way, I hope this in some way nourishes you. And I hope in some way it emboldens the truth that is alive in you and the innocence that is alive in you to dig deeper into the connected knowing that you have that maybe you're questioning, or maybe you're afraid of, or maybe you've put aside, or maybe you've diminished, or maybe you've been too afraid to embrace. I've certainly been there. And if you still have that innocence in you, that's not nothing. If you are not a cynical, cold, hardened person and you still care deeply and you're rocked and disoriented and messed up by just the basic day-to-day stuff that most people say is normal, good on you. That's quite an accomplishment that you've kept that alive. And yeah, it's not for nothing. So thank you and have a good rest of whatever your day looks like. Bye-bye.